You wake up exhausted, even after 8 hours of sleep. Your phone buzzes, and before you know it, you've spent 20 minutes scrolling through TikTok, Instagram, and news headlines that make your chest tight. You sit down to work, but your brain feels like it's swimming through fog. Simple tasks that used to be automatic now require Herculean effort. You tell yourself to focus, but your mind bounces between thoughts like a pinball machine. Sound familiar? Here's what nobody's telling you. You're not broken. Your brain is, but not in the way you think. Your brain wasn't designed for the world we've created. It evolved over millions of years to handle maybe 30 people in your tribe, not 3,000 notifications in your pocket. It was built to focus on one predator at a time, not juggle 17 browser tabs while your smartwatch buzzes about your heart rate and your Alexa reminds you about tomorrow's meeting. Right now, millions of Americans are sitting in their cars, after work, too mentally drained to even walk into their own homes. They're staring at Netflix menus for 20 minutes because their decision-making system has completely collapsed. They're lying in bed at 2 a.m. with racing thoughts, wondering why they can't just turn off like they used to. This isn't a character flaw. This isn't laziness. This isn't even depression, though it might feel like it. This is dopamine overload. This is your nervous system in survival mode. This is what happens when a Stone Age brain meets a digital age world. And I'm about to show you exactly why you feel this way, what's really happening inside your head, and most importantly, how to reclaim your mental clarity without throwing your phone in a drawer and moving to a cabin in Montana, because the solution isn't to disconnect from the modern world. It's to understand how your brain works within it. Your brain has a reward system that's been keeping humans alive for millennia. It's called the dopamine pathway, and it was designed to make you feel good when you did things that helped you survive, like finding food, connecting with others, or accomplishing meaningful tasks. But here's the problem. That same system is now being weaponized against you every single day. Think about Sarah, a 28-year-old marketing manager in Denver. She wakes up and immediately checks her phone. Instagram shows her a friend's vacation photos. Instant comparison, instant inadequacy. LinkedIn floods her with career updates from college classmates who seem to be crushing it. Her news app delivers a steady stream of political outrage and global crises. Before she's even brushed her teeth, her dopamine system has been yanked in 15 different directions. By the time Sarah sits down with her morning coffee, her brain is already exhausted. Not from work, from processing an unnatural flood of stimulation that would have taken our ancestors weeks to encounter. This is what neuroscientists call dopamine dysregulation. Your brain's reward system becomes so overstimulated that it starts requiring bigger and bigger hits just to feel normal. It's like developing a tolerance to a drug, except the drug is your own life. Every notification, every scroll, every swipe triggers a tiny dopamine release. Your brain starts craving these micro hits constantly. But here's the cruel irony. The more you get, the less satisfied you feel. You end up in what researchers call a dopamine deficit state, chronically understimulated despite being constantly overstimulated. This explains why you can spend 3 hours on social media and feel completely empty afterward. Why you can binge watch an entire Netflix series and feel more restless than when you started. Why you can eat a bag of chips while scrolling your phone and not remember tasting a single bite. Your brain is literally being trained to be dissatisfied with normal life. The sunset outside your window can't compete with the hypersaturated Instagram filter. A conversation with your spouse feels boring compared to the rapid-fire dopamine hits of TikTok. Your actual accomplishments feel meaningless next to the artificial achievement systems in your apps. This isn't your fault. Tech companies employ teams of neuroscientists and behavioral psychologists, specifically to make their products as addictive as possible. They call it engagement, but what they're really doing is hijacking your brain's ancient survival mechanisms for profit. The result? You're living in a constant state of mental overstimulation that your nervous system interprets as danger. Your brain thinks it's under attack, so it stays in fight or flight mode. That's why you feel anxious even when nothing's wrong. That's why you can't relax even when you're trying to rest. When your brain perceives constant stimulation as threat, something profound happens. Your entire nervous system shifts into what scientists call chronic hypervigilance. This isn't just feeling stressed. This is your body, literally preparing for war against an enemy that doesn't exist. Meet Jake, a 35-year-old software engineer in Austin. He works from home, which should be relaxing, right? But his day looks like this. Slack notifications every few minutes, Zoom calls back-to-back, emails pinging constantly, his Apple Watch reminding him to stand, breathe, and check his activity rings. His brain never gets a break from processing information and making micro-decisions. By 3 p.m., Jake feels like he's been running a marathon, even though he's barely left his desk. His shoulders are tight, his jaw is clenched, and he has that familiar brain fog that makes even simple tasks feel overwhelming. He's not lazy, he's experiencing nervous system fatigue. Here's what's happening inside Jake's body. His sympathetic nervous system, the part responsible for fight or flight responses, is stuck in the on position. His cortisol levels are chronically elevated. His heart rate variability is shot. His digestive system is compromised because his body thinks it needs to redirect all energy towards surviving an immediate threat. But the threat never ends. It just keeps coming in the form of notifications, deadlines, news alerts, and social comparisons. Your nervous system evolved to handle acute stress, like running from a predator, followed by long periods of recovery. But modern life delivers chronic, low-level stress that never allows for that recovery phase. It's like having a car alarm that goes off every few minutes, all day long. For months, this chronic activation creates what researchers call allostatic load. Basically, your body wearing itself out from constantly trying to maintain balance in an unbalanced environment. Your adrenal glands become exhausted from pumping out stress hormones. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for focused decision-making and emotional regulation, starts to shut down to conserve energy. This is why you feel mentally exhausted even after a relaxing evening of scrolling your phone. Your brain has been in hypervigilant mode all day, scanning for threats, processing information, and making countless micro-decisions. Even leisure activities become another form of stimulation your nervous system has to process. The cruel irony is that the very tools designed to make life easier are making your nervous system work harder than ever. Your ancestors might have faced a life-threatening situation once a week. You face perceived threats in the form of overwhelming information and constant stimulation, hundreds of times per day, that your body doesn't know the difference between a charging lion and a charging phone full of notifications. Both trigger the same ancient alarm system. The difference is, the lion eventually goes away. And notifications never do. This constant state of hyperarousal doesn't just make you tired. It fundamentally changes how your brain works, making it harder to focus, harder to feel pleasure, and harder to connect with the present moment. Your attention isn't just scattered. It's been systematically dismantled by a world that profits from your distraction. What you're experiencing isn't a personal failing. It's the predictable result of living in an environment designed to fracture your focus into 1,000 tiny pieces. Consider Maria, a 31-year-old teacher in Phoenix. She sits down to grade papers, a task that used to take her an hour. But now, 20 minutes in, she finds herself checking her phone just for a second. Instagram leads to Facebook. Facebook leads to a news article. The news article leads to 3 more tabs, and suddenly she's watching a YouTube video about organizing closets while her students' essays sit untouched. 2 hours later, Maria feels like a failure. She tells herself she has no willpower, no discipline. But Maria isn't weak. She's experiencing what neuroscientists call attention residue. Every time she switches between tasks, part of her mental energy stays stuck on the previous activity. Her brain becomes like a computer with too many programs running at once, slowing down until it can barely function. The average American checks their phone 96 times per day. That's once every 10 minutes during waking hours. Each check might seem harmless, just a quick glance, but it creates what researchers call a task-switching penalty. Your brain needs time to refocus after every interruption, and most of us never give it that time. This constant task-switching is literally rewiring your neural pathways. Your brain is becoming optimized for distraction instead of deep focus. The neural networks responsible for sustained attention are weakening from lack of use, while the networks that respond to novelty and stimulation are getting stronger every day. Think about the last time you tried to read a book. Did you find yourself reaching for your phone after just a few pages? Did your mind wander to your email, your to-do list, or something you saw on social media? That's not a character flaw. That's your brain operating exactly as it's been trained to operate. The tech industry has a term for this: continuous partial attention. You're never fully present for anything because your brain is always scanning for the next hit of stimulation. You're at dinner with friends, but thinking about work. You're at work, but thinking about personal problems. You're trying to relax, but your mind is racing through tomorrow's schedule. This fragmented attention doesn't just affect productivity, it affects your ability to experience joy, connection, and meaning. When you can't focus deeply on anything, everything becomes shallow. Conversations feel superficial. Hobbies feel boring. Even pleasurable activities feel hollow because you're not fully present for them. Your brain craves what psychologists call flow states, those moments of deep engagement where time seems to disappear and you feel completely absorbed in what you're doing. But flow requires sustained attention, and sustained attention requires the ability to resist distraction. In a world of infinite distractions, flow becomes nearly impossible. The result is a generation of people who feel simultaneously overstimulated and understimulated, constantly busy but never satisfied, always connected but increasingly isolated. From their own experience, here's the most heartbreaking part of what's happening to your brain. You have access to more entertainment, more information, and more stimulation than any generation in human history, yet you feel less pleasure than ever before. This isn't irony, it's neuroscience. Meet David, a 29-year-old accountant in Seattle. His evening routine used to be simple: come home, cook dinner, maybe watch a movie or read. Now, he opens Netflix and scrolls for 20 minutes, paralyzed. By choice, he finally picks something, but he's also scrolling Instagram on his phone. The show becomes background noise while he jumps between TikTok, Twitter, and online shopping. 3 hours later, he can't remember what he watched, and he feels more restless than when he started. David is experiencing what neuroscientists call anhedonia, the inability to feel pleasure from activities that should be enjoyable. But this isn't clinical depression. It's dopamine depletion caused by chronic overstimulation. Your brain's pleasure system works on contrast. A cold drink feels amazing when you're thirsty. A warm bed feels incredible when you're exhausted. But when you're constantly sipping, constantly comfortable, constantly stimulated, nothing feels special anymore. Your baseline for pleasure keeps rising, making normal experiences feel flat and boring. This is why scrolling through hundreds of funny memes doesn't make you laugh the way one good joke used to. Why binge watching an entire season feels less satisfying than waiting a week between episodes used to feel. Why having every song ever recorded at your fingertips makes music feel less magical than when you had to save up to buy a single album. The abundance that was supposed to make us happier is actually making us numb. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation, your brain's tendency to return to a baseline level of happiness despite positive changes in your life. But in our hyperstimulated world, that baseline keeps dropping. Consider how Americans eat now compared to 50 years ago. We have access to flavors from every corner of the world, available 24/7. Yet food addiction and eating disorders are at an all-time high. We're not eating because we're hungry. We're eating because we're understimulated. Our brains are desperately seeking the dopamine hit that food used to provide when meals were events, not distractions. The same thing is happening with every aspect of pleasure in your life. Sex becomes less satisfying when you have unlimited access to hyperstimulating pornography. Achievements feel hollow when you're constantly comparing yourself to highlight reels on social media. Even vacations feel stressful because you're trying to create Instagram-worthy moments instead of actually experiencing them. Your brain is stuck in what researchers call the paradox of choice. Too many options create decision fatigue and regret. You're always wondering if you're missing out on something better, so you never fully commit to enjoying what you have. You're living in a constant state of FOMO, fear of missing out, which prevents you from ever being fully present for what you're actually experiencing. This pleasure deficit creates a vicious cycle. The less pleasure you feel from normal activities, the more you seek intense stimulation. The more intense stimulation you consume, the higher your tolerance becomes. Soon, you need increasingly extreme experiences just to feel normal, let alone happy. Here's the truth nobody wants to hear. You can't think your way out of this problem. You can't willpower your way back to mental clarity. Your brain has been chemically and structurally changed by chronic overstimulation, and it needs time to literally rewire itself back to baseline. But here's the hope. Your brain is incredibly plastic. The same neuroplasticity that allowed it to adapt to our hyperstimulated world can help it readapt to a more natural rhythm. You just need to understand how the reset actually works. Take Lisa, a 33-year-old nurse in Chicago. After months of feeling mentally exhausted and emotionally numb, she decided to try what she called a dopamine detox. For 1 week, she eliminated her biggest stimulation sources: social media, streaming services, online shopping, and even music during her commute. The first 3 days were brutal. She felt bored, anxious, and irritable. Classic withdrawal symptoms. But something interesting happened on day 4. Lisa noticed she could actually taste her morning coffee. She found herself looking out the window during her break instead of at her phone. By day 7, she picked up a book she'd been meaning to read for months and found herself genuinely absorbed in it. For the first time in years, this isn't magic. It's neuroscience. Dr. Andrew Huberman, the Stanford neuroscientist, whose Huberman Lab podcast has over 4 million subscribers, has extensively researched what he calls dopamine regulation protocols. When you remove the constant flood of artificial stimulation, your dopamine receptors begin to upregulate. Huberman's studies show that it takes approximately 7 to 14 days for your baseline dopamine to start normalizing, and 21 to 30 days for significant neuroplastic changes to occur. This is why Lisa felt terrible for the first few days. Her brain was literally rewiring itself back to normal. According to Huberman's research, the key is what he terms dopamine fasting, not eliminating dopamine entirely, but removing the artificial spikes that have hijacked your reward system. Your brain starts producing more of its own feel-good chemicals, instead of relying on external hits. The key is understanding that this reset happens in stages. Week 1 is about withdrawal. Your brain is literally going through detox. You'll feel restless, bored, maybe even depressed. This is normal. Your brain is recalibrating its reward system. Week 2 is about rediscovery. Simple pleasures start feeling pleasurable again. A conversation with a friend becomes engaging instead of boring. A walk outside becomes refreshing instead of understimulating. Your natural curiosity begins to return. Week 3 is about rebuilding. Your attention span noticeably improves. You can read for longer periods, work on projects without constant distraction, and actually finish things you start. Your sleep improves because your nervous system isn't in constant hypervigilance mode. But here's the crucial part. This isn't about becoming a digital hermit. It's about creating what researchers call cognitive boundaries. You're not eliminating technology. You're eliminating the unconscious, compulsive use of technology that keeps your brain in chronic overstimulation. This means designated phone-free times. It means single tasking instead of multitasking. It means choosing your stimulation consciously instead of consuming it passively. It means creating space for boredom, because boredom is where creativity, reflection, and genuine rest happen. The goal isn't to go back to 1950. It's to live consciously in 2025, to use technology as a tool instead of being used by it, to reclaim your attention, your pleasure, and your peace of mind in a world designed to steal all three. Your brain wasn't built for this world, but it can learn to thrive in it if you give it the chance to reset. There's a reason why depression and anxiety rates have skyrocketed alongside social media usage. And it's not just correlation, it's causation. Your brain is being systematically trained to feel inadequate by comparing your behind-the-scenes reality to everyone else's highlight reel. And the neurological damage runs deeper than you think. Meet Rachel, a 26-year-old graphic designer in Portland. She opens Instagram while having her morning coffee and immediately sees her college roommate's engagement photos in Tuscany. Next, A fitness influencer's abs that seem impossible to achieve. Then a former coworker's promotion announcement at a company she always wanted to work for. By the time she closes the app, Rachel feels like her own life is small, boring, and unsuccessful, even though 5 minutes earlier, she was perfectly content. This isn't vanity or insecurity. This is your brain's ancient comparison mechanism being weaponized against you. Humans evolved to compare themselves to maybe 30 people in their tribe to establish social hierarchy and survival strategies. Now you're comparing yourself to millions of people, most of whom are presenting carefully curated versions of their lives, designed to maximize likes and engagement. Your brain doesn't know the difference between real competition and artificial comparison. When you see someone's vacation photos, your limbic system interprets it as evidence that you're falling behind in the survival game. Your stress hormones spike. Your self-worth plummets. Your motivation to work on your own goals, it's replaced by a vague sense of inadequacy and FOMO. But here's the cruelest part. The people you're comparing yourself to are doing the exact same thing. That friend posting about their perfect relationship. They're probably comparing themselves to someone else's career success. That influencer with the amazing abs? They're likely comparing themselves to someone with more followers. Everyone is trapped in the same cycle of artificial inadequacy. Social media platforms have turned comparison into a business model. The algorithm specifically shows you content that will make you feel something, and negative emotions like envy, inadequacy, and FOMO are incredibly engaging. You're more likely to keep scrolling when you feel like you're missing out than when you feel satisfied with your life. This constant comparison creates what psychologists call compare and despair syndrome. Your brain becomes addicted to the stress response of social comparison. You start seeking out content that makes you feel bad about yourself because your nervous system has become dependent on that familiar cocktail of stress hormones. Not the result? You lose touch with your own values, goals, and definition of success. Instead of asking, "Am I happy with my progress?" you're asking, "Am I doing better than everyone else?" Instead of celebrating your wins, you're minimizing them because they don't look impressive online. Instead of living your life, you're performing it for an audience of people who are too busy performing their own lives to actually care about yours. Your self-worth becomes dependent on external validation from people who don't even know you. Your goals shift from what actually matters to you to what looks good on social media. Your present moment gets sacrificed for the perfect post. Now that you understand what's happening to your brain, it's time you learned who's doing this to you and why. Because this isn't an accident. This isn't an unintended side effect of technological progress. This is a deliberate, calculated system designed to extract maximum profit from your attention, your time, and ultimately, your life. Meet the attention merchants. Every major tech company, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, operates on what's called the attention economy. Their business model is simple. The longer they can keep you scrolling, the more money they make. You're not their customer. You're their product. And your addiction is their revenue stream. Consider this. The average American spends 7 hours and 4 minutes on their phone every day. That's nearly 2,600 hours per year, more time than most people spend at their full-time jobs. Facebook alone generates over $100 billion annually from advertising. That's roughly $300 per user per year. Your distraction, your anxiety, your inability to focus, it's worth $300 a year to them. Multiply that by billions of users, and you're looking at the most profitable business model in human history. But here's the part that should make you angry. They know exactly what they're doing to you. These companies employ teams of neuroscientists, behavioral psychologists, and addiction specialists. They study the same dopamine pathways that drug dealers exploit. They use techniques called variable ratio reinforcement schedules, the same psychological principle that makes gambling so addictive. Sometimes you get a reward, a like, a comment, a funny video. Sometimes you don't. Your brain never knows when the next hit is coming, so it keeps you checking compulsively. They've weaponized something called the fear of missing out against you. Every notification is designed to trigger anxiety. What if something important happened while you were away? Every red badge, every someone is typing indicator, Every your friend posted for the first time in a while. Alert is carefully crafted to hijack your attention and pull you back into their ecosystem. Instagram's own internal research, leaked by whistleblower Frances Haugen, showed that the company knew their platform was causing depression and anxiety in teenage girls. They had the data, they saw the harm, and they chose profit over people's mental health. Facebook's internal documents revealed they deliberately made their platform more addictive, even when they knew it was damaging users' well-being. TikTok's algorithm is so sophisticated that it can detect micro-expressions on your face through your phone's camera to determine which videos keep you most engaged. It knows when you're sad, when you're lonely, when you're vulnerable, and it feeds you content designed to keep you in that state, because that's when you're most likely to keep scrolling. The average person checks their phone 96 times per day, because these platforms have turned your device into a slot machine that you carry in your pocket. Every notification is a pull of the lever. Every scroll is a bet that the next piece of content will give you that dopamine hit you're craving. And the sickest part? The executives who designed these systems don't use them. Steve Jobs didn't let his kids use iPads. Former Google executives send their children to tech-free schools. They know their products are digitally addicted, so they protect their own families while selling addiction to yours. This isn't capitalism. This isn't innovation. This is exploitation of human psychology for profit. They've turned your brain's natural reward system into their personal ATM, and they're getting rich while you suffer the consequences. Anxiety, depression, inability to focus, damaged relationships, and a life lived in constant distraction. Every moment you spend feeling broken, scattered, and unable to concentrate, someone is making money off your misery. Your suffering has been monetized, packaged, and sold to the highest bidder. The question is, how much longer are you going to let them profit from your pain? Right now, as you're listening to this, your phone is probably within arm's reach. Maybe you've already felt the urge to check it during this video. That urge? That restless feeling? That's not weakness. That's a multi-billion-dollar machine, working exactly as designed. You now know the truth that changes everything. You're not broken. You're not lazy. You're not weak. You're a human being whose ancient brain has been systematically hijacked by the most sophisticated psychological manipulation system ever created. And it's making someone else rich while destroying your life. Your dopamine system has been weaponized by algorithms designed to keep you scrolling. Your nervous system is stuck in survival mode, treating every notification like a life or death emergency. Your attention has been shattered into 1,000 pieces by companies that profit from your distraction. Your ability to feel genuine pleasure has been numbed by platforms that need you chronically understimulated to keep you coming back. Your self-worth has been handed over to strangers on the internet who are just as trapped as you are. And your suffering has been turned into a revenue stream for tech billionaires who protect their own families from the very products they're selling to yours. But here's what separates you from the millions of people who will continue living as products in someone else's business model. You now see the machine for what it is, and you can choose to step out of it. Here's what you're going to do right now, not tomorrow, not next week, right now. First, turn off every non-essential notification on your phone. Yes, including Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Do it before this video ends. Second, put your phone in another room for the next 2 hours. Just 2 hours. See how it feels to exist without that digital leash. Third, if this video opened your eyes, drop a comment. Let me know you're ready to reclaim your mind. The algorithm tries to hide content like this, so your engagement helps other people find the truth. The reset won't be comfortable. They've designed their systems to make withdrawal painful. The first few days will feel like hell, because that's exactly what it is. You're breaking free from a carefully engineered addiction, but that discomfort isn't a sign that something's wrong. It's a sign that something is finally being made right. Subscribe if you want me to keep exposing how your mind is being manipulated for profit. Hit that notification bell. Every day you wait, they make more money off your misery. Every notification you answer, every scroll you take, every moment you spend in their ecosystem. You're funding your own psychological imprisonment. Your brain wasn't built for this world, but it can learn to thrive in it if you have the courage to take action right now. Comment reset if you're ready to start your dopamine detox today. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this truth. The machine is counting on you to do nothing. Prove it wrong.